Are gas stoves bad for your health? Well, Theo, let's just fire up the old URL trawler and see if we can find a simple answer to this simple question.
Left's agenda to get rid of natural gas.
12 extra seconds to cook your soup.
Rest my gas cooker from my cold, dead hand.
I have taped myself to the stove and I will stay taped to this stove.
No! Forget the culture war and put climate change aside for a second. This question is about gas stoves' health risks. And yeah, I know it might be hard to believe there are any after literally decades of gas industry propaganda, including this 100% real educational rap.
Cooking with gas, cooking with gas.
We all cook better when we're cooking with gas.
Gas is so hot, it's not on when it's off. It's the only way to cook. That's what we were taught.
Very
Cooking
fun.
with gas.
But no, we're going to focus on your health. Just like one of Australia's biggest natural gas companies, Jemena, did when they ran a guided meditation session for Women's Health Week to help us understand
The science behind the benefits of the natural gas flame and why relaxing with a flame can really help take the stress away.
You might be wondering what that science she's referring to is. Well, Jemena's press release cited only one study, and that study involved people watching a fire simulation on a computer screen. So, not a real flame, and definitely no natural gas. So much for the benefits. So soothing. But what about the supposed risks?
They're dangerous as hell for humans, emitting carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxide and nitrogen dioxide, air pollutants linked to diabetes, reproductive issues and cancer.
Those are some pretty big claims. So I got some help in. This is Gideon Mayerovitz-Katz, an epidemiologist and public health writer. What does the evidence say about gas stoves giving you cancer?
There just isn't that much. Most of the evidence that looks at gas stoves and cancer actually looks at whether gas stoves are reducing the risk of cancers because they're comparing gas stoves to wood stoves, and wood stoves definitely do cause health issues.
So cancer's pretty complicated. What about diabetes?
The pollutants that gas stoves create have been linked to an increased risk of diabetes, particularly nitrous oxides. Just hard to be certain whether nitrous oxides are causing an increased risk of diabetes or whether other factors that relate to nitrous oxide pollution in society are the things that are causing the increased risk.
Natural gas is fine. Natural gas is clean. Safe cooking makes sense. We're not trying to be mean.
What about the cooking with gas wrap? Is that bad for you?
It is the worst thing that I've ever seen.
And what about reproductive issues? Are there any of those connected to gas stoves?
So there have been some reproductive issues such as miscarriages, birth defects and low semen production that have been associated with natural gas extraction.
Like living near fracking sites or gas wells, not actually just cooking with gas.
Exactly. There is some recent research looking at cooking with gas and birth defects specifically from China. And in those studies, there didn't seem to be much of an association or any association between gas stoves and birth defects. But there's not a lot of research on the other issues.
Is there any science behind what taping yourself to a gas stove does to your balls?
Burns are a huge problem for male fertility.
Okay, that's good to know, guys. Did you actually look that up?
I looked that up.
Now, this doesn't mean there are no health risks associated with
Cooking with gas, cooking with gas.
because there was a fairly alarming claim made recently about a link to asthma.
A child living with gas cooking in the home faces a comparable risk of asthma to a child living with household cigarette smoke.
So if we took all those gas stoves out of the equation, would a whole bunch of kids not end up with asthma?
12.7% of childhood asthma is associated with gas stoves. But when we say associated, we don't necessarily mean that gas stoves are causing all of those cases of asthma. If you removed all of the gas stoves tomorrow, you would probably see some children who didn't have asthma anymore. But there are lots of other causes of asthma that we wouldn't be addressing, and those would still impact children. And so the precise number, rather than being this headline 12.7%, is probably quite a bit smaller. Also, smoking confers a great number of risks, not just to asthma as part of secondhand smoke. And so, in general, smoking is a much bigger health risk, particularly for children.
So do you think this is a case of the nuances of a study sort of being butchered when it gets sucked into the broader debate, especially around climate?
Absolutely. I think that there is a vague risk to children's health that are then being conflated with the climate change risk. And, of course, climate change in general is a big risk to human health, and using gas stoves contributes to that. So that is a very valid reason to object to gas stoves in households. But I think that there's a big difference between saying, oh, well, maybe we shouldn't use gas stoves quite so much because they contribute to climate change, and cooking chicken nuggets for your children tonight will harm their health.
At least some in the gas industry have known about its potential air pollution problems for more than 50 years. The American Gas Association even acknowledged the need to address pollutants in household air in a draft report way back in 1972. But somehow, that section never made it into their final report, or the RAP.
Gas.
It's cooler.
We're cooking with gas.
It's precise.
We're cooking with gas.
It's cleaner.
We're cooking with gas. It's cheaper.
Confirm, Gideon. Gas stoves are probably not a killer in the kitchen, but they're not great either.
Pretty much. I mean, one of the most reassuring things that the evidence shows is that if you improve ventilation in kitchens, so opening a door, a window, having a ceiling fan even, you can almost entirely mitigate the increased levels of pollutants caused by gas stoves. And there are several randomized controlled trials that have shown just that.
So, Theo, you probably don't need to panic about using a gas stove. Just make sure you've got a well-ventilated kitchen. And if you'd prefer that message delivered in an 80s-style educational rap, well, I know just the guy.
I'm Garrett Andre, an original rapping chef, and I'm still cooking. Hit it! Like this gas stove, my rhymes are lit.
He's cooking with gas, we're dropping the hits. Cause every single time I get to cooking on my gas stove, righty says, oh yeah, lefties goes, so gas me up, I'll fact bless you up.
The health impacts won't mess you up.
The info you've heard is misconstrued, because media reports ain't peer reviewed.
Window, fans,
and a good range hood.
Don't fuel chef rule and tape your manhood.
Cause that's a knob, and that's a burner. That's a knob.
Dude, that'll burn ya.
Don't forget your other options.
Switch to electric for that sweet induction.
Does induction cook as well and make my food taste great? Like my gas stove's done since 1988?
It does, my man.
Of that we can assure you.
I'll kill the flame and grow my mullet back too.
Methane gas bad, makes the planet burn. Your stove is not a killer, that's a lesson learned. Word.